Hi students, so today we're going to be talking about knife skills. This is going to relate to the safety types and different knife cuts that you're going to see in the kitchen. So with your groups, think, pair, share about the different types of knives you have seen or used, the safety rules that you think should be followed in the kitchen with your knife skills, along with different cuts that are used in the kitchen. Okay, now that you've think, pair, shared, can anyone tell me some of the scenarios or knives that they came up with? Caitlin, how about you?
I know that we have serrated knives and regular knives and like butter knives and stuff like that.
Good job. Did you come up with any safety rules that you think should be followed in the kitchen?
Just to not run around with them, probably, and always have them face down.
Perfect. Really good. Did you know any knife cuts with your group?
No, we couldn't think of any of those.
Okay, well, we're going to cover those in class today. So, knife safety. We're going to go over all the safety rules. I would like you to take notes on these. Your knives should always be held by its handle. Never attempt to catch a falling knife. Always pass the knife by its handle. This is so that you don't stab anyone. Don't allow knives to hang over the edge because someone could walk into them and knock them down. You're going to want to not use them to open containers because you could slip and cut yourself. You're going to want to keep the knives down by your side when you're walking around, once again, so you don't poke or cut anyone. You're never going to want to borrow a knife without asking because someone may think that it's stolen or you could drop it and break it. You're also going to want to keep your knives sharp because a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife. Always hone your knife after you use it to keep its edge. So basically make sure that it is sharp before you are putting it away. Never leave your knives unattended in the kitchen sinks because it is dangerous if anyone is to reach into the sink. And also you should properly store them in a bag or a case. Does anyone have any questions about these rules or why we would have them?
No.
Okay. So we have different types of knives. Abigail, can you tell me what types of knives these are?
I think one of them is a bread knife.
Is that this one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. What about the other ones?
I think the ones on the right are like more of like steak knives.
Steak
or
knives?
The top one maybe.
This one you think is a steak knife?
No, like the top
This
one
one
in the picture. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know anything about this knife?
No, I don't know what that one
Okay,
is.
well you were pretty close. This is used for bread, but we're going to start off with this knife, and then I'll teach you about more.
Okay.
So a chef knife is what this is called. It is the most common knife used. They're typically 8 to 10 inches in length. You can use them typically for anything. An example that we have is a chef knife. So you notice how it is longer, has a swooped edge, and you can use it for just about anything. Paring knife, it is a smaller knife that you are going to use for peeling. You can also use it for intricate cuts or when you're getting very detailed with your cuts. A serrated knife, like you said, was used for breads. It has a sawtooth edge, which means that it can get through a peel or firm skin or crust of food that you're cutting rather than squishing it. So how many of you have gone to cut some bread and it's completely flattened as you're cutting it? To avoid that, you would use the serrated edge, which is going to lightly cut through it without squishing the bread. Does anyone have any questions about knives? Yeah?
What if you use a chef's knife for something like bread?
For something like
are you allowed, or like, is it okay if you use it for that?
You can. It may just squish your product, and it may not look as presentable. In this classroom, anytime you're cutting bread or something with a hard crust, I would like you to use a serrated knife.
Okay.
Thank you. So now we're going to cover the different types of knife cuts. Can anyone name any of these cuts that are pictured?
The ones on the top left look like pieces of French fries.
French fries? Okay, good. Do you know any other ones? What about these ones right here? Go ahead.
They kind of look like pieces of dice because they're squares.
Because they're square and they kind of look even on all sides?
Yeah.
Good observation. Does anyone know what this middle one is? It's probably the most common you've seen at home. Yeah, Louisa.
I think it's called the dice cut.
A dice cut?
No, oh my gosh, I'm totally kidding. I think it's called chopping.
Good, that is chopping. And you actually mentioned one of our other cuts, which is a dice cut. So let's go into detail about these. So looking at the chop, it is your coarsely chopping ingredients that aren't necessarily used to shape a dish or for an appealing look. They're typically used to infuse flavor or something that's later going to be strained out. So in order to do this, you're going to want to trim the roots and stems of your vegetable, for example. You're going to want to peel it if it's necessary. You're going to cut through the vegetable at equal intervals. Pieces should come out relatively the same size. As you can see in these examples, they're not all the same size, but you can understand that they're very similar to each other. Looking at the mince cut, it's going to be very, very small. So what that is, it's a very fine cut. You typically use it for some vegetables and herbs. And what that does is it's going to bring out lots of flavor. You typically see it in garlic and onions. So you're going to gather everything into a pile. You're going to chop it, put it together again, and chop it the other way. And you're going to get really fine pieces. You're going to cut very rapidly with this, making sure that you're not going to cut your fingers by tucking your fingers back. The julienne cut is 1/8 of an inch thick by 1 to 2 inches long. So this is a very specific cut. And like you said, this kind of looks like French fries. Each cut should be almost exactly the same size. There are measuring tools that we will use in class to make these cuts. You typically see these in maybe French fries or carrots and salads. You're going to, like you did with what you're going to do is you're going to trim and square off the vegetable. You're going to slice it lengthwise with the cuts being about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. Then you're going to slide it the other way and cut that same way. For the batonette, it's very similar to the julienne cut. However, it is thinner and longer. So it's going to be 1/4 of an inch thick and 2 to 2.5 inches long. So this is more of your French fries. Some French fries are julienne, but they can vary. You're going to cut this the same way as the julienne, just with the different dimensions. So next we're going to look at dice cuts. They're going to be cube-shaped product. They come in a variety of sizes, small, medium, large, and brunoise. Brunoise are going to be very fine and small cuts. You typically see these in potatoes for stew. You can even dice your meats. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut the slices into the desired thickness, stack them, and cut them the same way. So basically you're going to get your little cubes. So next we're going to do an activity, but before we do that, I do want to show you some knife cuts. So on here we have some cubed. So we have a small cube here. We have a medium cube or dice and a large dice. We got a finer dice cut, which is called a brunoise. Here I have roughly chopped some potatoes. Here I have a julienne cut. It's thicker, not very long. And here I have a batonette.